Find out which ones of these books have already been canceled. That was not good.
Oh yeah, I tried to avoid that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't intend to find it. I just kind of stumbled across it.
Where's my? Oh, they're there. Okay. No, not Bluetooth. Do not disturb. All right.
Check one. Check. How we
That
doing?
sound all right?
Yep, sound good. Me.
Cool. Yeah, you're good. Let's see.
All right, Moonlight Ninja Fight Beach Party website, Gmail. Then we're gonna discuss that whole 8-month span.
Yeah, I don't know what the Cyclops stuff is.
Dude, it's.
Are we discussing Extraordinary number one?
Yeah. Well, did you read in Extraordinary number 1 where it says he died fighting the Inhumans?
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Dude, that's it. If you
That's
go
all
to
we
the
know.
Wikipedia page, no, that's all that's going to be discussed between now. Then and now. That's it. That's the only thing you know about Cyclops' death.
Yeah.
That blur.
We need
that
to plug.
sentence.
Yeah. After we discuss the website, we need to do a little spoiler plug. Soft spoil. Hey, we're not going to spoil any big endings or twists for you, but we are discussing plot points of the current books.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, don't know.
Because we've tried not to, and it's just not working.
Yeah, we got to talk about how there's a big conflict coming between the X-Men and the Inhumans.
Dude, it's coming. It may be next summer.
But there's going to be a big old thing.
Yeah.
All right.
It's
I got all my. So.
I had a thought. It died.
Okay.
I know.
Hold tight. Hold that thought.
Yeah. Discover. That's what I want.
Right.
I want to discover.
I was checking something. I was actually making sure my door's unlocked or is locked because the roommates are watching the NBA game and Matt's a little turned up, so he might just burst into the room and scream profanities about LeBron James.
Who's winning?
I have no idea. The game just started.
Dude, we thought the softball game started at 7.
No, it started at 6. I thought it started at 7 too.
Games 1 and 2 started at 7.
Yeah,
so we assumed game 3 was going to start at 7. We sat here from like 6 to 6:50 before we went to church, like watching Person of Interest that we had on the DVR and watching something else because we thought, dude, it started at 7.
Yeah. If I had not checked my app, I would have thought the same thing.
Anyway. I'm looking for something, brother. Just bear with me just a moment.
Yeah, man, it's all good. You didn't really miss much. It was kind of a boring game.
Well, it's a 2-1. You got a pitcher stool. What they call
that's
it?
what it was, and it was the pitcher that won the game. What do they call
it's
what?
Last days, right? It was last days.
Last days when they're wrapping up the storyline.
No.
No.
The leading into Secret Wars, the Avengers Countdown stuff was called what?
Oh.
Dude, it was somewhere. I thought it was on the Discover tab, and it's not here.
I didn't even look at the Discover tab this week.
Time runs out. There it is.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to mention that. All right, time runs out. I need a pen and paper, but I can do without it. All right.
You good?
Count us in, brother. Let's do it. No filler words this week.
No filler words.
No filler words.
Okay. You adjusting?
Hang on.
All right.
I'm adjusting. This is on my nerves. All right, dude. It's just going to be on my nerves. Do it.
Okay. Yeah. No random Windows updates.
No.
Good. All right. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 2.5, 1.
Dude, I can hear your roommate yelling in the background.
Can you?
Yeah.
It's okay. We'll be talking most of the time, and you won't hear us. It's because it
All
was
right,
silent.
That's fine. Count it down again.
4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up? This is another episode of the 6 Months Behind podcast. I'm Pat.
I'm Sean.
And this is a Moonlight Ninja Fight Beach Party week of 6/6/16. And we are excited. Why are we excited, Sean?
Because we have tons of comic books to talk about.
We have 24 new comics this week, not counting extra books that came out, and we're just all kinds of excited. The website is 6xmonthsbehind.com. The email is...
You can reach us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That is the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. And yeah, we had 24 new books drop, not counting the stuff that's, just kind of backfill.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. We got a lot to talk about this week. It's probably going to be a big old issue.
We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to try and keep it under 2 hours. So that being said, we're going to cover a couple of things real quick. The first thing is we're going to discuss our spoiler policy. Would you like to begin that, or would you like me to begin it?
Yeah, we're going to put a minor spoiler warning here at the top of the show. Just so you guys know, we do discuss the plot points happening in these books. We're going to tiptoe around big reveals and twist endings and stuff like that, but we are discussing plot points, so it's soft spoilers. If you're not into that, sorry.
Yeah, we've tried not to give you spoilers, and it's just... We're talking about comic books. And
it's difficult to talk about these books and not discuss the plot point that's going on. So if you're, think of it as a read-along guide.
Yes, and if you don't read every book, we'll give you highlights of what's going on in the books. We're not going to tell you, as he said, we're not going to tell you major plot points. We're not going to give you huge reveals, huge spoilers, etc. But it's we're talking about the books, and in talking about the books, we're going to talk about what's there.
Right. And we're going to start with the 6 new number ones that came out this week.
Yeah, but before we do that, we're going to discuss our little problem that we have. Because here's what Marvel did in their infinite wisdom. When they were building up Secret Wars, and Hickman spent, 3-4 years building into this thing, and... he's writing the Avengers, New Avengers, and then they got to Time Runs Out. And when they got to Time Runs Out, they did an 8-month jump. Just boom, you jump 8 months.
Right.
And suddenly you don't know who the Avengers are anymore, and Reed Richards has got a beard, and these guys are suddenly good guys, and these guys are bad guys, and all the teams have swapped around, and this person's Illuminati, and this person's not. And you've lost 8 months, and you don't know what's going on.
Right. So there's plenty of little mysteries that we see in these books. We're like, what? When did that happen? How did he?
And you assumed at some point it was going to be explained. Never was. So then we go into Secret Wars. Then you come out of Secret Wars. Okay, now here we are. We're months out of Secret Wars. All of the Secret Wars books are basically behind this. There was like one or in the last month. There's been maybe 3 Secret Wars books. They're essentially all wrapped up.
Yeah,
we'll probably get
there's
Secret Wars
2 more Secret Wars books, which are the main titles.
Which will probably be number 8 next week.
Yeah.
Number 9 in about a month. Okay?
You and I have read those. The people who are just reading Unlimited, unless they went out like we did and actually bought the issues and read them, don't know how we got here.
And the problem, here's the problem. We have 6 new number ones this month, as you just said. And you're just friggin' confused. You're lost. If you read, what is that, Extraordinary X-Men?
X-Men number 4.
No. The all new X-Men.
All new number 1.
Nope. It's dude, I get the Extraordinary X-Men. Excuse me.
Yeah,
Extraordinary X-Men number 3. No, I'm
number 3. Whatever.
I put the bad number there in our notes. I did our notes wrong. It's Extraordinary X-Men number 3. They discussed the fact that Cyclops is dead, and he died fighting the Inhumans. Okay,
that's all you know.
That's all you know. I mean, at this point, Cyclops is dead. You saw him at 600. Which came out late. He's standing on the Capitol steps, leading the mutants. Now he's dead. That note is all you know about Cyclops dying. That's it.
Yeah.
You're 8 months later. That's the only note you get. Daredevil, last you know about
another thing.
That's number one this week. Daredevil comes out this week. The last you know, the whole world knows that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. He's in San Francisco. He's a lawyer. The Kingpin knows he's Daredevil. Every villain knows he's Daredevil.
Right. He's been out for a while.
For in Marvel time, in the Marvel sliding timeline, he's been out for years. And now he's back in New York. He's a district attorney. He's hidden his identity again from everyone except Foggy Nelson, and you don't know how. And there's just all these things that they've done with no explanation whatsoever. None. And we can't explain it. No one can explain it. I've gone on the Wikipedia. I've tried to figure it out. It's just not there. There's just we're befuddled.
Dude, well, some of this is intentional. These two specific things, I believe, are intentional. We're not supposed to know. We're supposed to go, what? This is the reaction we're supposed to be having. So we're going to see what happened in that 8 months, in flashbacks or in some way. I just go with it and hold on for the ride.
We never did in those Avengers books. Thor and Hyperon became drunks, and we never figured out why.
Well, I mean, sometimes plot lines get left dangling. They rebooted the universe, man.
And why did Thor become drunk?
We don't know.
I don't know. Hyperon suddenly got all these little kids. They're on the island. They're not the island. The Savage Land. Nobody knows why. Just there. Okay. Whatever. Okay.
Yeah. All will be explained or revealed in the future, I'm sure. And if not,
sure. If not, we make Hyperon a villain and that never happened. Oh, well, whatever.
Sure.
All right. So on to this week's books.
Yeah. Start us off.
All new Hawkeye #2. This was okay. And when it says Hawkeye, it should really be Hawkeyes, because you get Kate Bishop and Clint Barton confused.
Well, I don't, because they're both, one's a dude and one's a
Hawkeye.
lady.
Well, it says Hawkeye. So are they talking about Kate Bishop or are they talking about Clint Barton?
They're both Hawkeyes, so it's a Hawkeye book.
Okay. Is that
It
not
works.
Hawkeyes?
Just go with it.
Hawkeye
Just go
not
with it.
plural? Okay, whatever. All right, go ahead. It's a Ninja Beach party, man. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, Clint and Kate escape capture by the Mandarin. You get more flashbacks, and they're going to go take down S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm really looking forward to issue #3. It's a neat story. And I don't know where they're going with it or what its significance is, because it's happening in the future, and you're flashing back to the present, and you're seeing this rift open up between Clint and Kate, and somehow it has repercussions in the future, but I'm not sure what the overall implications are as far as the larger Marvel universe. But it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Yes, it is. And it was a good read. It wasn't the best read of the week, and it won't make my list, but it was a lot of fun. It was good. Next up is Black Knight #2.
Are you reading this book?
I read this book and I really enjoyed this issue.
Yeah. Did you read #1 too? I couldn't remember.
Hey, let me just say this. Just say this. These books came out at noon Monday.
Yeah.
I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Mowed my yard Monday night. Went to a concert last night. Went to church tonight. Still read all 24 books plus the 2 issues of the book that we're going to try and figure out where the first 2 issues went, and still got all 26 books read. Come on, brother, work with me.
Man.
I'm a comic machine.
Yeah. Yeah, we have 48 hours to read these books before we record this on Wednesday night, and
I got
I've
them
just
all
been
read.
cramming comic books into my face for 2 days.
Yes, I read it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Black Knight did a bad thing, and the Avengers are coming to get him, and he doesn't know how they got there because he doesn't know how he got there. And
that's what I was. We were discussing before we went on the air about these comics, and I was trying to figure out where this is. And there's another comic that's coming later.
It's Weird World,
right? But where is it?
Yeah, that's the thing we don't know. Where is it? Weird World, we know by the end of that Secret Wars 5-issue series that Weird World is now part of reality.
Right. It was in the Bermuda Triangle, but I don't know if it's still in the Bermuda Triangle or not.
Oh, it might be.
Okay.
It might be exactly where it is.
I'm trying to figure out where I put Red Wolf somewhere else. That needs to be with the regular books too, instead of the miscellaneous books. Because when I was sorting the books, I didn't put that in the right place.
But yeah, Black Knight. If you like fantasy, this is you. If you're a fan of like George R. R. Martin's work, Tolkien. This is you. Yeah, if you like the old classic barbarian comics, this is for you, man.
I'm trying to remember what
crazy,
Frank Carey.
Just crazy. Frank Frazetta.
No, Frank Carey's the guy who wrote this. I'm trying to remember what
you're going to go back to Frank Frazetta's artwork.
Although the art in this book is great.
Yeah, the art in this is really good too.
I want to say this guy's written some Hulk books, but this is really good writing, very good writing. And I was really, I'm really into this book. I really am. I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes in issue 3.
Yeah, dude, they took this Z-list Avenger in Black Knight and made him interesting, and so everything else is gravy. I'm on the train. Yeah,
I'm with you.
Contest of Champions number 3.
Yes. Okay, let's start here. We're doing this for a podcast. I look very closely at what comes out every week. I do. I study. You and I have discussed the fact that there are books out on Monday, and then you'll update your app on Wednesday or Thursday, and there's more books there. Sometimes dozens of more books if they're adding back issues.
Yeah.
I do not remember 1 and 2 coming out, and I have wanted to read this book because I'm a big fan of the Maestro. The Maestro, you've got the two, you've got the Collector and the Games Master, two of the cosmic characters of the universe fighting, and the Maestro is there as one of the characters. Now, since we haven't discussed this before, what this essentially is the Contest of Champions is a handheld video game that Marvel licensed, and they're basically, if you read the page in the end of issue 1, they're selling the comic book with the game and the game with the comic book. They've tied the two together, but they've done it in a masterful way because they used the Maestro to do it. They've got some great characters. They're creating characters as they go, and it's a really good read. Now, normally, I wouldn't want any part of something like this, but they're tying it into 616. They're tying it into the main universe. It's not one of the other books that's hanging out there like that Spidey #1 this week.
Right. One of those weird off-the-rack things that are, clearly a promotional comic book.
Right. It's tied into the main universe. I read an article somewhere saying that they've got big plans for the Maestro, and whatever it is that the Games Master and the Collector, those two spears they're holding, are essentially going to be like the Cosmic Cube or the Infinity Gauntlet. That's what they're holding half of.
Yeah, super powerful space artifacts.
Right.
Because those always work out really well in the Marvel Universe.
Right. And something like that in the hand of the Maestro is going to turn out great.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, if you take the most powerful Hulk ever, World Smasher Hulk, combine him with the most intellectual form of Bruce Banner and the most evil form of the Hulk, you get the Maestro.
Yes.
Yes, there's a point in, where was it, issue 2 or 3, where Tony Stark's like, hey, I know you. And the Maestro's like, no, you really don't. And makes a point of intimidating Tony, and Tony's like, oh, I guess I really don't. It's a pretty funny scene.
I would just absolutely love to see the Maestro be introduced in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
It'd
be a cool thing to do with Hulk, because you have trouble making those Hulk movies and making him interesting when he's by himself.
You've read the stories that Planet Hulk may be part of the next Thor movie, right?
No, the next Thor. Well, they might incorporate elements, but essentially what you've got is a Thor or Hulk buddy movie. Yes,
well, but they may kind of but it may be a Planet Hulk Thor at the same time movie.
Right. Yeah, that's the current rumor. I wouldn't hate that.
I wouldn't either. It would be pretty cool.
It would. But
Yeah.
Contest of Champions number 3, everybody got swords. Did you notice that?
I did.
Everybody in the 616 universe has got swords. What's going on? Like Knight's got a sword. There's a lady in this thing that has a sword, like a really cool curse sword.
That's a pretty cool sword.
Yeah, it really is. It's super sinister.
Don't get me wrong. It's super sinister, but it really looks good. And this book's got some good art too. A lot of times when they do a gimmick book like this, they don't put good writers and good artists on it. Al Ewing's a very good writer, and this is some very good art on this book. It really is.
They're really trying to make this a good book, and I was not particularly interested in it when it first came out. Read the first issue and was like, oh yeah, gotta read this.
Yeah, and this game has, I forget how many tens of millions of downloads they're at with this game, but it's really popular. I mean, there's a lot of Marvel handheld games out there for your device, and this is by far the most popular. So, okay,
yeah, Deadpool number 3.
Did you read it?
No.
Okay. Here's the characters that are in this thing: Solo, Slapstick, Madcap, Stingray, Fool Killer, and Terror. Now,
those are all like C-listers, right?
You said Z earlier.
Because I've certainly never heard of I've heard of 2 of them maybe.
They're down there, but this thing takes a serious turn this month, I should say, because Captain America and Deadpool start figuring out that these things aren't right, and they realize that things are that people are winding up dead. As I've said before, this is kind of a murder mystery. With all of those characters, if you've got Slapstick and Madcap, okay, and Deadpool all in the same book, you're gonna have idiotic comedy. And I forget which one Captain America goes to confront. I think it's Slapstick or Madcap 1, and it doesn't go well. You know, Captain America trying to talk common sense to him, it didn't go well at all. But at the same time, there's some good stuff going on here, and this book takes a serious turn, particularly in the last 5 or 6 pages. It takes a really serious turn. Deadpool himself realizes there's things going on here. You know, there's people winding up dead. He starts working with Captain America and some other people to try and figure out, who's messing with his life. So it's a good book, man. It's a very good book.
Cool. Hey, let's backtrack for just a second. If you haven't read Contest of Champions, here's what it's about. The Maestro and the Collector are collecting superheroes from all the different universes and realities, putting them together and making them fight in an arena for huge stakes. If you want to know what the premise of that book is, because we didn't talk about it because we're so excited to talk about it, that's what's going on in that book.
And who's in it so far?
Everybody. There's a cool Venom from another universe who ate Peter Parker, and now Peter Parker talks to him in his head. Yes,
they got Ares there, Iron
Stick's
Man
there. Ares is real mad about the Sentry. The Sentry's on the other team.
Yeah, Sentry's there. Ares, Iron Man, Gamora.
Is that 616 Iron Man?
I think so.
I think so too.
I'm fairly certain of it. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. But some of these characters they're creating along the way, like that Punisher they created, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a cool Punisher, cool. Like 1930s style Punisher.
I don't know if he was from England. He was an English Punisher.
Oh, okay. I don't know. He looked like a chimney sweep, so I went with 1930s.
He was from England.
Yeah, so, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool book. Anyway, back on track. Spider-Man number 4. What do you think of this?
I continue to. I don't know how Dan Slott has time to write for all the tweeting that he does and all the people that he engages on Twitter. I don't know how he has time to write, but holy cow, does he do some good writing. And
yeah, I mean, this book is so good.
With number 1, he took this Spider-Man in a totally different direction, made him rich, made him do all these things. And this is a great book, great art. You got Alex Ross doing the covers. This thing is great.
Yeah.
It's just great.
Really, it's doing what Spider-Man is always best at. You have these serious consequences, but there's always room for some levity. Peter Parker's cracking jokes, other people cracking jokes, people having funny reactions to stuff, funny little interactions between characters. Yeah, it's so good. I mean, Peter blows off a high priority SHIELD mission to save Aunt May because he is solely driven by his morality in that way. The way that, he lost Uncle Ben that one time, and he's been driven by that one thing for so long, and he's always the moral compass. If you want a true moral compass on your team, you get Spider-Man.
Yes. Yeah.
We're also getting, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
We're also getting the high-tech Spider-Man that I've always wanted.
Yeah. There was like,
he's all gadget.
First Civil War, Stark gave him that armor for a few issues and then, took it away.
Right.
And now he's created his own. Yeah. It was super cool. And now he's got his own.
He's got his own gadgets he's using, and his suit's got a bunch of tech in it, and he's got a plane that does cool stuff, and he runs a tech company. And yeah, we're getting that high-powered, super gadgety Spider-Man that I've always wanted, that Peter Parker was always capable of being, and for some reason never seemed to do it.
Are you waiting for all this to be snatched away from you?
Yeah, it's all going to come crashing down. It's Peter Parker.
You're not going to wake up one morning and he's going to be broke, or Hydra's going to have taken over his company, or SHIELD's going to take it away from him, or
no, he's going to be doing the Spider-Man thing, and he's going to neglect the company so much the board's going to vote him off. And
the board's going to vote him off, or Justin Hammer's going to come in and buy it out from under him, or something bad's going to happen. It is.
Speaking of Justin Hammer, have you noticed that Peter Parker is getting the full Iron Man treatment? I mean, he's running a big tech company. He's got all these gadgets and cool stuff, cool tech he's working with, and he's throwing money around like crazy.
Yeah.
And
he still can't remember to zip his fly, though, which I think is funny.
But it's cool that you can do this with Peter Parker and give him that treatment and basically make him Tony Stark. And it works.
Yeah, it's working.
And one more point. This was a filler issue, if you didn't notice.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Well, it didn't feel like a filler issue, but I don't know. It felt with going to saving Aunt May and finding the super smart little girl, and it felt like kind of stretching that story a little.
Dude, I think there are going to be consequences to the things he did in this issue. I don't think it was a filler issue. I think there are real consequences to it.
All right.
Well, I think with what he did with Nick Fury, there's going to be consequences.
Oh yeah, you blow off Nick Fury. He's not into that.
No. And I had a point on my mind about this that I completely forgot when we started talking about that.
Oh, sorry, man.
It's like carousel, man. It'll circle around in a minute and come back to it.
Yeah, but this is a good book. Dan Slott's writing it. It's some of the best Spider-Man writing in a long time.
Oh, I remember now. And as I said, it's carousel, man. My mind's carousel. It'll circle back around. This is Spider-Man was what? I gotta think. Fantastic Four, Ant-Man, Hulk, Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Thor.
Fourth or fifth
comic book.
Yeah.
So we're talking 50 years.
Yeah.
And Dan Slott has found ways to freshen it up, to keep it fresh and new and
which
interesting.
Is hard to do, and it is a problem that Spider-Man had specifically about 10 years ago.
Dude, nobody can do it with Superman. People have trouble doing it with Daredevil and Batman. I can go through a list of heroes that people have trouble doing it with.
Yeah.
There's a reason the Fantastic Four have been canceled, because people can't figure out how to make the Fantastic Four interesting.
Yeah, you've done it all.
You've done it all. And Dan Slott has found a way, whether it's through the Superior Spider-Man, whether it's what was the Mary Jane storyline? Brand New Day.
Brand New Day, yeah.
Brand New Day. Whether it's this storyline, he has found a way to make Spider-Man and Peter Parker interesting. You may love it, you may hate it, but he has made it interesting and enjoyable and it's a great book.
Yeah, be reading it.
Yeah. I told you the carousel will come back around.
5.5 bald Brian Michael Bendis heads. We'll give it 5 out of 5.
There you go. Totally awesome Hulk #1. I know you're not a Hulk fan, so
Nope,
I'm going to
didn't
say
read
you
it.
didn't read this book.
Take it away.
How are you off for 3 days and I get all the books read and you didn't?
I was actually very busy this week. I really didn't have any downtime because I was catching up from.
I told you my schedule. You heard my schedule.
Yeah.
And I got it read and you didn't. How does this happen? Okay, anyway.
Listen, I skipped it. I'm not a Hulk guy. Sorry.
Okay.
I know you are.
Greg Pak, as Dan Slott has been writing Spider-Man for a long time, Greg Pak essentially has been writing the Hulk for a long time.
That dude's been
there have been
the
some
Hulk
other
for
people.
a billion years.
Been some other people writing it on and off. But he's essentially been writing it for a very long time. Frank Cho is drawing it. Great artist.
Oh man.
They've taken a different approach. Yes, Frank Cho is drawing it.
Okay, I might actually read this book now, just for the art.
But what they did, dude, it's great art. And
all you had to know was Frank Cho. His art's fantastic.
So, but here's the kicker: is it's the totally awesome Hulk because Bruce Banner isn't the Hulk anymore. Amadeus Cho is now. Amadeus Cho is a minor character in the Marvel universe, but he's a pretty major character in the Hulk books.
Yes.
Because he's like I think at this point he's an 18 or 19-year-old kid. He's a teenager who is the 7th or 8th smartest person in the world.
Yeah, super
7th
genius.
or 8th. There seems to be a debate in this issue as to whether he's the 7th or 8th smartest person in the world. And at some point in these lost 8 months we were discussing at the top of the podcast, he became the Hulk. There are flashbacks in this issue as to how this happened, and apparently it's going to be a story because you see some things as to why and how Bruce Banner isn't the Hulk and Amadeus Cho is. And his whole thing is, hey, I'm smarter than Bruce Banner. I can control it. Now, let's think about that thought for a moment. He's smarter than Bruce Banner. So if you list the top 10 smartest people in the Marvel Universe, you got Richards, Banner, Stark, Pym, you run through the list, and he's saying, I'm smarter than he is. I can control this. And it doesn't take you long in issue 1 to realize, no, he really can't. He can't. And this is fun. It's entertaining. He's a teenager who's the Hulk. At one point, he's flirting with a girl, and he's lost his pants. And she reminds him, hey.
I don't know.
Apparently it wasn't.
Okay, well, that's too bad.
She points out, hey, if you're going to flirt with me, you might want to make sure you have pants on. It was entertaining. It was funny, and you've got it's going somewhere. It's a very good book. It's a very good book.
Cool, dude. Yeah.
And I'm really into Frank Cho's art and Greg Pak's writing. So
cool. If you're a Hulk person, be reading that. Well, how many shiny bald Brian Michael Bendis heads do you give it?
3.5.
3.5. Okay.
3.5. I'm not into. Amadeus Cho has never been a character that I've really been fond of. I've never really got him as a character, but they're kind of doing something in the storyline, and they're kind of, and we can go back to what we were just discussing. The Hulk and Bruce Banner have really run the gamut. I mean, another 50-year character, a lot of storylines there. It's kind of, you got to kind of shake it up a little bit, and this is one of the ways of doing it. So, okay, yeah, I'm with it.
Awesome. All new X-Men #1.
Numero uno.
#1.
And this group of X-Men,
right? Bendis is writing this?
No. Dennis
okay.
Hopeless.
Okay.
With Mark Bagley as an artist, who I'm very
that's what it was, because Bendis and Bagley do a lot of work together, so I just assumed it was Bendis, and I recognized Bagley's art.
Yeah, no, it's Dennis Hopeless who was writing this. Dude, did you read the notes I sent you?
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it.
Okay, I comic books notes. Have you read anything?
Yeah, I read plenty of stuff.
Okay,
listen.
You
Listen,
just know
I
it's
just
it's
I
a
could
Moonlight Ninja
wrote it or
fight
not. He's
beach
one of the X-Men books.
party.
So
Yeah, dude, there's
yeah,
so many, and
Moonlight
they
Ninja
all
Fight
have
Beach Party.
adjectives in front of them, and I can't even keep the adjectives straight. So there you go.
Yeah, I have a problem with that too.
Yeah.
Did you like this book? It was okay. A lot of ground laying. First issue.
We talked about this one the other day. These are the ones. This is the one where they're brought from the past, right?
Yes, it's dealing with the X-Men who were brought back from the past to the
Because I'm
present
reading the
by
description
Beast.
and the recap is not matching what I read. So there you go.
Right.
Okay, because
No,
I didn't see Kid Apocalypse in this book.
Right, you have Kid Apocalypse, but he doesn't really
that's right.
do anything.
They were riding around with the Beast. That's right.
Yeah, they're riding around with Beast in that super awesome nerd wagon that I want.
That was a pretty awesome nerd wagon.
It's it's like the TARDIS. It's a little Airstream trailer, and you walk inside it, and it's a huge mansion because stuff, science and stuff.
Beast built it that way. Yes.
Yeah, it's bigger on the inside, and I want one.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You and I had this discussion one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, about Cyclops.
And this is kind of the center of this book, and not just this book, but Jean Grey is struggling with this also in the Extraordinary X-Men. If you wake up 20 years in the future on the Marvel sliding timeline, and the world sucks, and your life sucks, and the world's a disaster, the whole world, and you realize it's your fault, right? It's specifically you aged 20 years and it's your fault. Dude, that would totally suck.
Yeah, you find out that the future you has destroyed the world and the dream that you believe in, and it's your fault.
Yeah, and that's what Scott Summers is dealing with in this issue.
Yes.
And I'm really over the moody, brooding Scott Summers. Again, 50 years. I'm kind of over it, but it almost made it interesting in this issue. It almost made it interesting because it made you stop and think, wow, that really is a lot of mental baggage to carry around. And he's kind of like, how do I change that? How do I prevent this from happening? How do I fix it?
Right.
And we'll discuss this some more in Extraordinary, but it's how do I fix this?
Yeah, and if you read I've been reading some older X-Men stuff, and if you read any of that, you realize Scott Summers has been a screwed up dude for a long time.
Dude, he's been screwed up since Uncanny #1.
Yeah, that guy was never quite right. And, this is the same Scott Summers, just plucked from his timeline. It really makes me wonder if the way they're going to take this is going to be, this Scott Summers tries to do the opposite of what other Scott Summers did and make those wrongs right and still end up a villain and go off the path. And, I think it would be interesting to see it, almost like fate is inevitable.
Well, I tell you what, while we're here, let's talk about Extraordinary X-Men #3.
Okay.
Because in this issue, and this is as near as I can tell, this is going to be the main X-Men book.
Mm-hmm.
And Storm has taken all of the mutants in the school and moved it to Limbo, which, as you see in this issue, I'm not sure it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It doesn't go well. And she and all the X-Men that are there are fighting all the demons that are in Limbo. But the problem is she's trying to get Logan, and let's be clear here, this is Old Man Logan from Secret Wars. And just to recap, you have the Old Man Logan series in Secret Wars. That's a 5 or 6 issue limited series in Secret Wars. At the end of that series, he goes straight from Battle World into Earth 616. There's no skipping. There's no nothing. He goes straight from one to the other. So this is that Logan. And in this issue, he's talking to Jean Grey.
Who's the Jean Grey plucked from the timeline that the other
Scott Summers that we were just talking about.
Yes.
And what they're discussing, and again, this is one of these things where we're going to do a lot of spoiling for you. but they're discussing the consequences of the action, whether she cannot become the Phoenix, and whether he cannot do the things that he did and kill the X-Men. Because in his timeline, he killed all the X-Men. In the other timelines, she becomes the Phoenix. And his point is, you always become the Phoenix. There's nothing you can do to prevent it. And she's like, no, we can prevent these things from happening. I can prevent you can prevent yourself from killing the X-Men, and I can prevent myself from from becoming the Phoenix. And he's like, no, we can't. We're destined to do these things. And they have a discussion about it for the whole issue.
Yeah, and Scott Summers is destined to become a mutant terrorist.
That's the argument they have. And
the struggle against fate seems to be an overarching theme with these books, which is why I kind of want them to go that direction with Cyclops.
Yeah, and that's really the crux of this issue, and they're an Extraordinary X-Men #3, which is why we skipped ahead to it.
Right.
And that was a good issue. I like the art in it. I like bringing Old Man Logan there to it. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's a really cool thing that they're doing coming out of Secret Wars, is because they killed the original Wolverine, and now Laura Kinney, who is X-23, is Wolverine, doing a great job, by the way, even though they're only on issue 2. But you've got Old Man Logan from that Old Man Logan series and universe that was going on, and you've brought him here, so you have a version of Logan. It's just a more interesting version than we had.
Yes, and I'm still not convinced that they killed the right Logan. I think they killed the wrong Wolverine.
Don't disagree with you.
If you go back to the Age of Apocalypse, not the Age of
Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron, where they swap places so they wouldn't have each other's memories. I think the real one is still out there somewhere.
Yeah, go read Age of Apocalypse from a couple of years ago. You'll know what we're talking about.
Age of Ultron.
Yeah, Age of Ultron, not Age of Apocalypse. Sorry.
Age of Ultron.
Lots of apocalypse talk lately.
And there's a lot of time traveling in there, but what gets really confusing, but the two Wolverines trade places. And the Wolverine of Earth 616 goes and doesn't come back. That's the bottom line. So there you go.
Right.
Have we thoroughly confused everyone at this point?
Dude, probably. It's comic books, man. If you can't deal with confusing storylines and odd characters, find something else.
Speaking of confusing storylines and odd characters, let's go to All New Inhumans #1.
Now, I'm not normally an Inhumans reader, so for me, this was a good book for an introduction into some of the more minor Inhuman characters. Because real quick, Pat, give us a rundown give me 5 sentences on who the Inhumans are.
The Inhumans were created by the Kree many years ago, thousands of years ago. The Kree came to the Earth, tampered with humans' DNA, and made the Inhumans. They lived, this is more than 5 sentences. They basically lived by themselves for centuries, millennia. And I was going to say this anyway, so I'm going to go a lot longer than 5 sentences. In Infinity, I didn't realize the consequences of what was happening in Infinity when Thanos and Black Bolt were fighting, and Thanos blew up, and you had, how do you pronounce their home world? Attilan. I've heard it pronounced
Attilan. I don't know what's correct.
Let's call it Attilan, and I'm sure somebody will send us something to correct it.
Yeah.
When Attilan was floating over New York, and he intentionally created this Terrigen mist that's now floating around the world and creating new Inhumans, both in the S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series and in the comic books. And this really has far-reaching consequences, all the way up to Civil War, which is on the stands now. And as you and I were discussing before we went on the air, I think it's going to have far-reaching consequences for years to come.
I agree.
And so, because before you basically had the royal family. You had Black Bolt, Medusa, Crystal, Gorgon.
There's a couple others, which are all introduced in the book.
Yeah, 6 or 7. There were 6 or 7, and that was it. And that's who Jack Kirby came up with. They were the royal family. That's who you saw.
Sure.
Then it kind of started expanding a little bit, and now you've got thousands. You've got thousands popping up all over the world with new ones popping up daily, and it's really becoming you've got 2 Inhuman books right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, in this book, they're discussing that Terrigen Mist is like a giant storm cloud rolling across continents. And if you're, it doesn't hurt humans, but if you are inhuman and you breathe it, you become a powered person.
Well, but you don't know that you're inhuman when you breathe it.
Right, exactly. You don't know. So it's just, if you breathe it, things might happen to you.
They might not.
Or might not. No, and we don't know, and people don't know. And so one day you're just walking down the street, and then you get powers, and you have to be an Inhuman now, and you become part of a new race of people, and your whole life changes, which is an interesting question. If you, Pat Myers, could breathe the Terrigen Mist, would you?
I don't know. My mind is confused right now because I've bought some comic books off the stand, and I know what I've read off the stand, which is 6 months ahead of what we're reading. So I know some.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my mind is confused because there's this comic book where the Terrigen Mist is coming. And there's like this group of college kids standing there, and some of them run, and some of them like stand there and embrace it.
Oh, interesting.
And it's like this, and it's really crucial to what's happening in the Marvel universe. And I've already talked too much about it, so let's just leave it.
I would. If nothing happens, fine.
In the Marvel universe, I probably would. In the Marvel universe, yes, I probably would.
Yeah. If I get cool powers, that's a thing I'd do. But let's get into the meat of the issue. Gorgon became paralyzed at some point. I'm not sure how. I really haven't been reading a lot of these.
Lost 8 months.
Yeah, lost 8 months.
I lost 8 months.
And he's training these new Inhumans, and the Inhumans are trying to do the best thing that they can in the face of this, what is a global crisis of this Terrigen Mist. Because you just have new Inhumans popping up every day, everywhere, and people don't know what to do with them. They're like refugees, and they're doing everything in their power to handle the issue. And this issue deals with a meeting between a lot of foreign diplomats and the royal family.
And it's a mess. I mean, because humans hate them, mutants hate them, Inhumans are. You've got 3 different races of people at this point, all hating each other, or not. Let's rephrase that. They're not getting along well.
Right, and the Inhumans are doing everything they possibly can to contain the issue, and they may not be able to. I mean, the Terrigen Mists have consequences for the mutants. It makes them sterile.
Yes.
So, and there's probably a big conflict coming between the Inhumans and the mutants.
Yes.
Absolutely. And we don't know when, but there's going to be a big old throwdown between Inhumans and mutants, and you can guarantee somebody's going to come out on top.
Yeah. I don't know when, but sometime. Hey, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. You go.
No, I was. It'll be on that carousel. We'll circle back around to it.
Okay. Daredevil #1. I really enjoyed this book. Ron Garney's doing the art, and it's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's another one of those things where the 8 months thing happened, and you don't know what's going on.
But you don't know what's happened, but they've rebooted. Dude, we got 24 books, and this really is going to be a 2-hour podcast. When they outed Matt Murdock's identity, I don't even know now. 10 years ago in real time.
Civil War, wasn't it? Or sometime before?
Dude, it was sometime before. I mean, the Kingpin has known for 20 years. The Kingpin has known forever. and a lot of people have known for a long time. It was something that made it hard for writers to write Daredevil. And that's why in the last series, they moved into San Francisco. And while it was a good series, they still had trouble writing it because there's just so much you can do. So they used this reboot to put that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll ever explain how they did it, but they put that genie back in the bottle, and they took away Matt's secret identity, or gave Matt back his secret identity.
Yes.
And
the only one who knows is Foggy Nelson.
And I think
Murdock allowed it to be.
I think that gives them good writing tools again. And I also think making him a public defender, which he is now, instead of a
public defender, assistant district attorney.
Right. Instead of a defense attorney, I think both of those combined give them good writing tools to make this an interesting character and move the character forward in character developments.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we talked about with those Spider-Man books. Daredevil's been around a while. You've done a whole lot with him. He hasn't been around as long as, Fantastic Four and stuff, but
it's close, man.
Yeah, it's not far.
He's probably year 49.
Yeah, exactly. And so you got to do things like this and change it up when you get the opportunity, because it just gets stale.
Yeah.
And this is cool. And he's working with a new guy called, I don't know. He
was training that guy. Did we read in the previous book, or was he training that guy in San Francisco? It was in the previous book.
Yeah, but we've never seen him before otherwise.
Yeah. So, it's a good read. It's a good read. We got a new villain. Called Ten Fingers, which was entertaining. And this is a good read.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes. And if nothing else, the art's really good.
Yes. Guardians of Infinity #1. What'd you think of it?
I did not read this.
This was interesting because apparently the Guardians of the Galaxy don't pay very well.
No, I wouldn't think so. Have you met the Guardians of the Galaxy?
Rocket Raccoon decides that he and Groot and Drax are going to go out and make some money.
Mm-hmm. Did read that Groot book from last week, though. That was great.
Wasn't that good?
Yeah. If you haven't read it, go read Groot #6. Even if you don't give a rip about Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a really good issue.
It's a really good issue. And we'll recap it from last week very quickly. Jean Grey winds up reading his mind, and he winds up communicating with Jean Grey via telepathy.
This is Groot.
And this is Groot. And it's the first time you ever hear Groot speak something besides "I am Groot."
Right.
Really cool.
And you get his origin story, and really good book.
Really good book.
Anyway, apparently the Guardians don't pay well.
The Guardians don't pay well. So Rocket sets out. He deceives Drax into thinking they're going out to do good. And they're really just going out treasure hunting. And they wind up on this interesting space piece of wreckage, shall we say, where they run into the Guardians from the 31st century, and then wind up of the Guardians from the year 1000.
Oh, year 1000. Okay.
Year 1000. That's what I said. Yes, I had to think about that. That's not the first century. That's 10th century. 10th century. That's what I'm trying to think of. So it evolves from this treasure hunting thing to suddenly it's this big space mess with all the Guardians there. The Guardians 3000. If you're a fan of Starhawk and all their names just completely escaped me. If you're a fan of the original Guardians, they're there. Martin X, Fantastro, those guys are there. Groot, Rocket Raccoon, Drax, and a bunch of Guardians I've never seen before from the 10th century.
Yeah, who are likely brand new.
Yes, and then you've got a backup story with the Thing and Rocket Raccoon, which is pretty cool. It was interesting. So, and it was an entertaining read. It was, let's just say that it was a fun little read.
Cool.
Which brings us to all different Avengers #2.
This I did read. Is this an Avengers book or is it a Miss Marvel and Nova book?
It's a close call.
It seems to be a little of both.
It's an Avengers book. It
is. But we're seeing lots of interaction between Miss Marvel and Nova, and it's funny because they're both teenagers and kind of have a little crush on each other. But it's like, let's get back to the Avengers, please.
I mean, you got Miss Marvel, Nova, and Miles Morales as Spider-Man.
Yes.
And then you got Captain America, Thor, Vision, and Iron Man.
Yeah. And at some point, Spider-Man's surfing on the back of Iron Man in this issue, and
so I mean, so you get 3 kids, and you got 4 of the original Avengers. Really? I mean, it's and if that sounds like a confused mess, well, it's a confused mess.
Right, but what you've got is the elders there. Bad. Yeah, you've got the elders there to teach the next generation.
I mean, that being said, it's written by Mark Waid, it's drawn by Adam Kubert, and it's got a cover by Alex Ross. So how bad can it be?
Right, and they're fighting a Chitaran dude who's collecting artifacts or something.
Which got pretty good toward the end, by the way.
Yeah, it did. Who's this dude?
I don't know, man. Yeah. But he stomped them pretty good.
No, not that guy. The guy pulling the strings.
Oh, the dude that bought Stark.
He bought the Stark
Tony
Tower.
Stark?
Yeah, he bought Avengers Tower because, spoiler alert, Tony has no money.
Well, this isn't something else I read off the rack.
Mm-hmm.
Because it explains this. Here's the thing. He's talking to Rhodey at one point, and it's a difference between having money and Jim Rhodes coming up to him and saying, "Hey, I need a new suit of armor," and Tony Stark saying, "Do you have $4 billion?" So it's like, do you have money? Yeah, I got a couple of $1 billion, but I don't have $4 billion to make you a new suit of armor, or I don't have billions of dollars to keep funding the Avengers. So does he have money? Yes, he has money. Yes, he's still a billionaire. No, I don't have $100 million for the property damage y'all did this week.
Yeah, he doesn't have an endless bank account.
Right. So is he rich? Yes, he's rich, which you see in the Iron Man series. Does he have hundreds of billions of dollars and is he the richest man in the world to just keep funding endlessly the Avengers? No. That's the explanation I found, and it finally made sense to me.
Right. So, hey, when does Tony Stark hit up Peter Parker for a loan?
I don't know. I don't know.
But yeah, I can see that happening. He's just like, "Hey, Pete, I got a business proposition for you."
Yeah. There you go.
No, I like this book. It was good. I'm gonna keep reading it.
There you go. And that brings us to Howard the Duck number 2.
Did you read this? I assume
I did. I read them all.
I didn't.
When I said I read them all, I read them all.
I skipped this one because I don't care about Howard the Duck. Sorry.
I am dedicated to our podcast. Okay.
Listen, so am I. It's not enough to read Howard the Duck.
I'm dedicated to the good and the bad. The good, the bad, and ugly. Okay.
That's not what you said about the dinosaur girl last week, Moon Girl and Dino.
But I read it. And I read this. Okay.
All right. Well, I'm a Howard the Duck hater.
I'm gonna tell you what, man. Apparently, they cloned Howard the Duck and they cloned Rocket Raccoon. The Collector cloned them both so he can make female versions of them, so they could procreate and have more Rocket Raccoons than Howard the Ducks. And this issue is about the female Rocket and the female Howard and how they escape from the Collector and time travel and meet the Silver Surfer and jump all over the space-time continuum. And if that sounds like a cluster of a comic book, knock yourself out.
Okay.
Nova number 2.
Okay, before we get there.
Yes.
Give me a rating on the Howard the Duck. Out of 5.
I'm a Marvel cosmic guy. You got to, I read the cosmic books. I do. I enjoy the Marvel cosmic stuff.
Yeah, you're because a Silver Surfer fan too.
Because the Surfer's there, because the Collector's there, maybe 1, maybe 1.5, and maybe this is going somewhere. Maybe. And I'd make it 1.5 because maybe this is going somewhere. But dude, it was bad, man.
All right, let
It
me
was
know
bad.
when it gets there, and I'll jump on board.
Yeah.
Nova number 2.
Nova number 2. Did you rate it?
No,
Dude.
I don't care for Nova. Sorry.
There are 2 Novas. There's Sam Alexander, who we've seen flirting with
With Miss Marvel, yeah.
Ms. Marvel in the previously discussed Avengers book. And then there's his dad, who has returned from outer space. In issue 1, we discovered that his dad isn't who we thought he would be.
Hmm.
In this issue, we learn his dad really isn't who we thought he is. And that really sums up the issue. It's there's a fight, and Nova Sam Alexander saves the day, and we learn his dad is something else. There you go.
Okay. See, I was counting on you to read it because I know you're a big Nova fan.
I am a big Nova fan. I've been I bought Nova number 1, Richard Rider, off the stands back in 1975 or 76, and I've missed very few issues since. And it wasn't bad. It sounds like I'm soft selling, and I'm still in recovery from talking about Howard the Duck. This is one of those transitional issues. Number 1 was great.
Yeah.
The last couple of pages of number 2 are really good. The book drugged. With the last couple of pages of number 2, you're like, holy cow. And you know it's going somewhere in 3, 4, and 5. Because when you get to those last couple of pages, you're like, oh, this is going somewhere. And you know it is because of what happened.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. From here on, we got 24 books this week.
Mm-hmm.
But these last 5 or 6 or 7 books, dude, they're really good.
They're home runs.
There's not a bad
Every
book
one of
among
them
them.
is a home run.
Every one of them. Yes.
Yeah. Which the first one is Vision number 2. This book, dude.
I'm gonna let you talk about it because it was so good. It was like the first book I read Monday, so it's not fresh in my mind. You tell us about it, and then I'll comment on it.
Okay. It's much like the first issue. To me, it feels like an issue or an episode rather of the Twilight Zone. It's the narration that's in it specifically does it, but it's the vision. The premise is the Visions, who are synthetic. They're synthezoids, which is the Vision and the wife and kids he created for himself, living in a suburb, going to school, doing stay-at-home mom stuff, and it all just goes to hell in a handbasket real fast. And this book is unnerving.
It is almost frightening.
Yeah, in a I don't know. It teases the back of your head, and I don't know. I get a little weirded out after I read it.
Yes.
Yeah,
and it's like you're getting to the last page, and you think, okay, everything's cool, and then you get that last scene at the end of the page, and you're like, oh Lord, this is freaked out.
Dude, and it's great. It's a good writing. The art's good. And the thing I love about it so much is it's nothing we've ever gotten from Marvel before. And dude, it just puts me on edge. It's like watching a horror film. Everything is just so off normal.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me, and this will help our listeners and readers some. If you go back to the previews book, the all-new previews book, whatever it was, number 0, and we need to make a note so we can reference that book occasionally. This book begins with the Vision having a mental breakdown and removing his emotion chip. He deletes all his memories and all his emotions, if I remember correctly.
Yes, for a very specific reason.
Because he's having a mental breakdown.
Yes, but why? And it has to do with another character that.
Well, yeah, it's got to do with Wanda.
Yeah, it's got to do with
Scarlet
Wanda.
Witch.
He's seeing Wanda everywhere.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I want to go back and read that again.
Yeah, he's hallucinating and seeing her everywhere.
Here's my point. He gets rid of his emotions. But when he creates, I guess he created the Synthezoid family?
Yes, it talks about in the first issue he created them for this reason, so he could go to Washington D.C. and live in a suburb and
But
continue
did he
his.
create them with emotions?
That's a good question.
Because we see a son flip out in this issue.
Yeah,
We his daughter obviously kind of flipped out in the first issue. His
Yeah.
wife is flipped out 2 or 3 times.
I wouldn't say flipped out, but she's she ain't right.
Dude, she's flipped out, man.
She ain't right.
she's
And Vision is just like, no, everything's fine, everything's peachy, it's all good. We're going to continue this exploration into having what is it he calls it? Purpose in life, and that we have a purpose. There's
because he's emotionless, and everyone else around him is insane.
Yeah.
So he has no emotion, and everyone else is mass murderers. I mean, it's to the point to where the principal is wanting to kick his son out of school because he
nearly killed a kid in the
to a
cafeteria.
loaded gun. Yes, he compares him to a loaded gun, and the Vision's like, oh no, he's fine.
Yeah, this book is great. Be reading it. 5 out of 5.
This book is
it's
great.
Bizarre. And it's so good for it. I love it. Fantastic.
Okay.
Doctor Strange number 3. What'd you think?
First off,
no magic, no pants.
No magic, no pants. Yes, Doctor Strange spends most of this issue running around naked.
He wakes up in his astral form in Central Park naked. And his magic doesn't work. So, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. One of the things that's often not appreciated is an artist draws a book, and what used to be the process, and it's not this way anymore. It used to be drawn, and then it was inked, and then it was colored. Nowadays, the drawing and inking is often done at the same time because it's done on a laptop. It's actually done digitally. It's done digitally, but the coloring is still done separate. The coloring in this book was magnificent.
Absolutely.
This was a beautifully colored book. There was another book, the Winter Soldier book that was out last year, was beautiful colors in it. This thing was colored beautifully. I don't know who did it. It's not something that comes up in our notes, but it was really colored, and it was because it was, I guess what he was seeing and what he was fighting was different colors, and he was kind of hallucinating in the process. Dude, this thing really looked good, man. It really, really looked good. That's my impression of it. Also,
Chris Botchler's art.
Right. He's the artist, but he didn't do the color.
No.
Also, they've got this storyline where a group of people are killing off all the magicians in all the universes.
Sorcerer Supremes.
Well, dude, they're eliminating all magic.
Right. That's the ultimate goal of these people, or this group, is to eliminate magic altogether. And Doctor Strange, things have been going weird with magic in the last couple of issues, and Doc can't figure out why. And he wakes up in Central Park being gnawed on by magic devouring slugs from another dimension. And he's trying to figure out what they're so hungry for and why they're here, and why everything else is real weird with magic all of a sudden. And he finds out at the end of this issue that people are just executing Sorcerer Supremes and eliminating magic from all of reality. Yeah.
Good book. Good book. And I'm not a Doctor Strange guy. You're not a Hulk guy. I'm not a Doctor Strange guy. It's a good read. It's a very good read.
Absolutely. And I like the little bit where he casts a spell and basically makes everyone in New York vomit all at the same time.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it on purpose. He's casting a spell, and some of the backlash of that spell is nausea, and, well, it happened.
Yeah. We done? We good with Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
Great book. Great book.
5 out of 5.
Yeah, we've already covered Extraordinary X-Men number 3, but it's next on our list, and I wanted to talk about it for just a second.
Okay.
Have you noticed that Professor X keeps appearing to Storm?
Yes. I was actually going to ask you about that. Is she delusional, or is he actually appearing to her?
I don't think she's delusional.
I don't think so either. I think he's alive again, or rather, his consciousness is alive somewhere.
Well,
It's in an egg on the moon.
actually, it's in the Red Skull's head.
Oh yeah.
That's beside the point. Well,
Oh,
that's
no, you're
actually
right.
not beside the point. It's in the Red Skull's head.
Oh, there's
Which-
weird implications.
Good Lord. Okay, if you don't understand what we're saying, if you go back to Avengers versus X-Men, AVX,
Yeah.
Scott Summers kills Professor X. They bury the body. The Red Skull digs up the body, takes Professor Xavier's brain, and puts it in his head as a weapon to use Professor Xavier's telepathy powers as a weapon, which leads you to Axis. And if that sounds bizarre, welcome to the world of comic books.
Comic books. We do bizarre.
So is he alive? And is he appearing to her? And is he alive?
Could be.
Could be.
I mean, I think so.
I don't think he's hallucinating. And this
I
is
mean, I've been reading comic
happened in
books for a
every
long
age.
time.
Right.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
I've been reading comic books a long time. Sometimes you can see this stuff coming, or you see what happens down the road, or at least you know what to expect. And no, I think this is the way they bring Professor X back.
Yeah. Yeah,
Although
I think so.
they-
I think it's coming in some form or another.
Yeah, they've killed him off like 9 times in the last 7 years. So
Dude, he's been killed off and brought back so many times, in and out of that wheelchair, and I don't even know.
yeah, man, I don't either.
I
But that
don't
brings
either.
us to Invincible Iron Man number 4.
This brings us to the Moonlight Ninja Fight Beach Party.
Yes. Which is what Tony Stark does in the beginning of this issue. He's fighting some ninjas in the moonlight on a beach, and it's a party.
Dude, let's just start with the fact that Bendis is writing it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the last time Bendis ever wrote something I didn't enjoy. Dude, he's Bendis.
Yeah, I typically enjoy whatever he does.
He's Bendis.
Jason Aaron is another one. I like everything that guy does.
And he's taking Tony Stark and made him, he's given us the fun, drunk Tony Stark without Tony Stark being drunk.
Yes.
And there's multiple plot lines going through all these issues, from the Doctor Doom to Mary Jane Watson appearing, to trying to deal with Madame Mask, to the ninjas, to dealing with his artificial intelligence that he's programmed, that he apparently doesn't like the way he's programmed it, but he can't get it to shut up. It's just the whole thing is comical. It's great, entertaining, intense, all at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, there's serious consequences, but there's always room for levity. So you're kind of getting Spider-Man treatment on the Iron Man book. And of course, Bendis wrote Spider-Man for a long time, Ultimate Spider-Man. So I think he's borrowing from that a little bit. But yeah, this book is really good. If you like Iron Man at all, be reading it. And Madame Mask has superpowers, and Doctor Doom is not so much of a dick anymore. Or at least that's what we're supposed to think. And there's a lot of stuff going on in this book.
There's a lot of
great.
stuff going on in this book. It looks great. Bendis is writing it. It's great. It's just great.
Moonlight Ninja Fight Beach Party.
There you go. Let me before we move on to the Star Wars section, let's cover that Red Wolf book, because I didn't know what to do with it.
Mhm.
I wrote the notes before I read it, and I take our notes, and here's inside baseball for you. I take the books every week and I divide them into different sections. You've got the 616 section, you've got the Star Wars section, and then you've got the books that are dumped, and you've got kind of got the miscellaneous books. And I didn't know where to put the Red Wolf book because I hadn't read it yet. And I looked at it and I thought, well, that's a Secret Wars book and it's out of place. And I thought they were just doing a Secret Wars spinoff. Well, so
Yeah,
I
it's
put it
another
down there.
timely book.
Miscellaneous. Well, yeah, let's talk about that. So I read it, And Timely was a Battle World nation, whatever domain that the Kingpin ran and was run by Roxxon Energy at the time. It was the town of Timely, and Steve Rogers was there. All the Avengers were there.
It's the Old West.
In the Old West, 1872 to be exact.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve Rogers died. Natasha Romanoff was there. The Hulk was there. Bruce Banner was actually drinking gamma radiation there toward the end of the series. It was a very interesting story. Very good story. You had drunk Tony Stark. Tony Stark sobered up. And there was an Indian named Red Wolf who took Tony Stark's place there toward the, or not Tony Stark, Steve Rogers' place as sheriff there toward the end. Hence the name Red Wolf. And that's now he's sheriff of Timely. And I thought, okay, they've got a story there in Timely, and they're going to continue with Red Wolf, and they're going to write a Western, for lack of a better term.
Sure.
And I read it. And I was like, okay, it's a good story. It's a murder mystery, and I'm reading it. I don't know what else to say here, but this is a total spoiler. So what you need to do is take something and skip about 1 minute if you don't want to know what I'm about to tell you. You need to just slide 1 minute if you don't want to know what I'm about to say.
Yeah, big boy spoiler coming up.
Yes. Last page, a kid shows up, takes a picture with his iPhone, and says, I'm going to post this on Instagram.
Yep.
And you're like, what?
Dude, what?
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 We're in 1872. This is Timely. How is this kid taking a picture and posting it on Instagram? What? It's 1872 and Timely. What?
This book's already a little weird. You just threw another layer of weird on top of it.
Yeah, suddenly you're like, is this Timely or is this Weird World? What just happened here?
You're eating this weird cake and you just put weird frosting all over it, just slathered in it.
Yeah, did you read it?
No.
Dude, the way you were talking, I thought you did.
I was trying.
Okay, you're faking it. Okay.
Yes.
Really, so it's weird. And then there, that last panel, and I'm going to stop talking about it now. It just takes this right turn off into the Twilight Zone, and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah, you're driving your Corvette through this cornfield all casually, and then all of a sudden, Cliff.
Yeah, and you're just like, what? What happened here? How does this fit here? Where did that come from? I'm just like, okay.
And now you're like, oh, I gotta read the second issue.
Yeah, I have no idea what happened. I'm just like, okay. I was like, oh, okay. I'm glad I read it now. This is why you should read every book, young man.
Well, I tried.
Well, there you go. I was just sitting there. I'm just sitting there at the last page. Just like, what?
I actually did want to read it. I fell short of time.
Dude, I was just like, wow, this is different.
Well, you got me really interested, even more interested in it. So, yeah,
it's just bizarre. I mean, because it's just kind of, you're like, okay, it's a murder mystery. It's the Old West. It's Western. Okay, whatever. Okay, whatever. Then you get to that last page, and you're like, what?
Yep.
Okay.
Big old head twist.
There you go. Star Wars number 13.
Yes. The single lone Star Wars book this week.
But by golly, it was good.
Oh, it sure was. It's a continuation of the Vader Down series. Darth Vader's crash landed on a rebel planet. They're all trying to get him. You got in this issue, you got a little standoff between Han Solo and Afra. If you don't know who Afra is, you should be reading Darth Vader. If you're not reading Darth Vader, what's wrong with you? Yeah, and I thought it was really funny. Chewbacca rips the arms off the protocol droid and beats him with it.
I thought that was pretty funny.
That was hilarious. And the indignity.
Dude, I like the weapons on that R2 droid.
Oh, that droid? Yeah, man.
Dude, that thing was loaded for bear, wasn't it? Holy cow, man.
It was like War Machine.
There's just missiles and guns, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, and R2-D2 is going, oh, I got to upgrade.
Yeah. That's a
Yep.
great book, man.
Yeah,
Great
really
book.
good book. If you're not reading it, you're an idiot.
You say that every week
Dude,
about all
you
the
should be
Star Wars
reading if you like Star Wars at all, you should be reading this.
Yeah, you're really. These are they're written by Jason Aaron. It's great art. They're really good. They're yeah.
Fantastic.
Yes.
On to the miscellaneous book this week. We're nearing the end here, folks. I promise. Deadpool and Cable split second Infinite comic.
Number 4 and 5.
Yeah, number 4 and
This was
5.
written by Fabian Nicieza. It's a good book. I'm not reading it. I've read the first couple of issues. I've gotten behind on it, but it's one of those Infinite comic series.
He's one of those old school. Fabian's one of those old school X-Men writers from like the 80s and 90s. So I believe he can do Deadpool and Cable pretty well.
It's got a good story. It's a good book, man. It's a good book.
And then Spidey number 1.
Dude, I looked at the first 2 or 3 pages of this thing. I don't even know what this is.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I don't know what it is. It did not interest me.
I just gave it that. Okay.
Yeah. For those who don't
don't. Okay. I was like, no.
Yeah. Whatever. Spidey number 1. That brings us to.
It was not a good book. Okay.
No.
Well, I got 24 good books to read. I came to that. I said no, not happening.
May it die in a fire.
Yes.
All right. Brings us to the dump this week, which
I don't know
books.
what those are. Those are old Kirby books, and I really want to read those from the 40s, and I really want to read those. And this is where I did run out of time, and I may circle back around next week and talk about those. And that's where I completely ran out of time, and I haven't read them yet. But I want to see what those are.
Yeah, I'm interested in them too. I didn't have time to read them, but yeah, I just don't understand why they're putting them there.
I don't know.
Like, I don't know. I don't know why they're digitizing that old stuff. Maybe a time thing. You know, if you don't do it now, the comic book that you're scanning these pages of is going to literally rot away.
I don't know, dude. There could be copyright issues. There could be legal issues. There could be all kinds of issues.
Yeah. So that's the dump this week. Not a whole lot there. And that's going to bring us to our classic read of the week. Pat, you got this one, or you want me to take it? Because we both had one this week.
We both have one. I was not prepared, but give me a moment.
Oh no, I got it. I've been reading X-23. And if you don't know what that is, it is the origin book for Laura Kinney. The reason I'm reading it is because she's the new Wolverine. So what they did is they took in the whole series, it's a limited issue, like a 6-issue series called X-23 from about 10 years ago. And it's the origin story where they take DNA, it's the Weapon X program, and they take DNA from Wolverine, a sample that they found somewhere, and they're trying to clone him. And they just can't get it to work, and they spend literally years doing this. Probably 10, 15, 20 years. And finally, one of the scientists says, let's just make it a female, and it'll work, through a bunch of genetic scientists mumbo jumbo. And they're like, no, we can't do that. But they do, of course. And that's how you get Laura Kinney, who is, a female clone of Wolverine. And she's got 2 claws that come out of her hands, one blade that comes out of her feet. And they just train her to be a killing machine. And this is what those books deal with. It's a 6-issue series written by Craig Kyle and Chris Yoss, who are classic X-Men writers. Not classic, but they do really good work on the X-Men. So if you want to know about the origin story of X-23, go give it a read. There you go.
All right. I actually had one, but my iPad had gone dark and it took me a moment to pull it up, but we'll cover it next week.
Fantastic. We've gone pretty long this week, so I think we're going to wrap it up here. Pat, what's our website?
www.6sixmonthsbehind.com.
And you can get in touch with us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That is the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. Until next time, folks, we will see you in the funny pages.
Peace.